I tried to beat Kerbal Space Program on hardcore mode, the hard and realistic game about building space rockets with mod where you can't reload and a lost crew never returns. Moreover, I never played this game before. This is Bob. His dream is to visit all the planets in the local solar system. He wants to become a star on his home planet and be the most famous traveler. But Bob will have only one chance because in this mod, if anything happens, Bob won't come back to life. My current goal is to reach the Kerbin's orbit, fly to the moon, enter its orbit and return. To find out how much fuel is left and whether it will be enough to land on the moon during the next launch. Here is the rocket. Bob is in the cockpit, ready for takeoff. The launch was successful. During the launch, I had to reduce the power. For some reason, it's shaking violently. To be honest, this rocket has started to remind me of something crude. We need to redesign it. It was tilted at a steep angle, and Bob has trouble raising it back up, so it would fly into space instead of to the neighboring continent. But Bob was unable to stabilize it, so he had to detach and land. To figure out what was going on, I went to read the manual and found an interesting tip about maneuvers. I learned that the center of lift has to be behind the center of mass, and that should make my rocket stable. It seems that was the problem. I made a few minor updates to the rocket, which should help stabilize it, and went for another launch. And I couldn't believe my eyes. The result was actually much better, but a little higher up, the wobbling problem started again. I hope I can climb higher. With the rocket wobbling like that, I barely managed to reach the upper layers of the atmosphere and started to lean. And the manual I read really helped a lot, but it seems that after I dropped the extra rockets, my single engine could no longer handle the weight. I'm really happy I successfully made it past the atmosphere. The new engine really does use very little fuel. Now the goal is to reach orbit, but my engine wasn't powerful enough after all, and I started falling back into the atmosphere. Or maybe I did something wrong, I need to redesign the rocket. After a successful emergency landing, I returned to the hangar to figure out what to do with this rocket. So I made a few tweaks. I reduced the number of fuel tanks and used different boosters. I named the rocket MK8. I hope this flight goes smoothly this time. The launch went incredibly well. The new model is performing wonderfully and consistently. Bob is thrilled. Could he finally be breaking through the barrier we have been stuck on? But there might be fuel issues. As far as I understand, most of the fuel is used during takeoff to exit the atmosphere, but once in space, fuel consumption will be slow. Bob managed to successfully reach space and is trying to perform a maneuver to enter orbit. But so far, it's not going very well. I was so close to reaching Kerbin's orbit, but damn, I'm running out of fuel. I can't believe my eyes. This is the moment where I finally made it into the orbit. It's just an unreal rush of adrenaline. Bob's done this for a second. It's perfect. But there is a problem. This used up almost all our fuel. There is just a tiny bit left. I have no idea how we're going to reach the moon with this much fuel left. Bob took a super dangerous step, something he's never done before. He went out into open space. Bob also wanted to make one orbit around Earth. He refused to carry out any further missions until that was done. So we had to listen to him. I'm close to reaching the moon's orbit and returning, but I'm afraid I might run out of fuel, so to play it safe, I turned back to make some minor adjustments to the rocket. And from an altitude of 170 kilometers, our descent began, against a sunset like this. I used the remaining fuel to slow down our descent. I accidentally collected enough science to unlock a new science module and used it to collect even more science from all the places I'd already been to. I collected it right on the ground, then in the lower layers of atmosphere, and on my way back I realized I forgotten to install the cabin disconnect, and the irreparable happened. I realized it far too late, when there was no chance left. Bob didn't even have time to understand what had happened before his life was cut short. This is tremendous tragedy for all of us on Kerbin. It is the most tragic day in our history. The carelessness of the staff led to the death of the best among us. The launch of the shoot for the moon MK9 will go down in history as the most tragic day in space exploration. His brother, Bill, decided to carry on his legacy, and we promised that we would be much more careful. Bill is very happy with his first flight, a successful one. Several more test flights like this were conducted to collect scientific data. Sometimes it seemed to be that Bill is a little crazy. Here is the rocket I will be flying to the moon. I am slowly starting to understand what these numbers mean, roughly. The ratio of engine power to fuel and how far I will be able to travel. This number can also be compared to the one used for the maneuver to see if I will be able to put it off. Awesome, can feel the progression. I named the rocket Shoot for the Moon MK12 and I headed to the launch pad. The takeoff was very smoothly, which is probably a good sign. It indicates a good power to weight ratio. During takeoff I could see the moon I'm flying to. I hope everything goes well this time, and if not, at least I won't be making updates based on guesswork. I will have some actual numbers to go on. The first rockets worked as planned, but unfortunately they didn't carry me into the orbit. I will have to use the next stage a bit. So far everything is going according to the plan, and Bill is very happy about it. This is his first time entering orbit. He's already imagining when he will return home and tell his friend about these wonderful journeys, and tell if he saw their homes from space. And this is successful entry into orbit. There is still a little fuel left. I tried to perform a maneuver toward the moon to see how much fuel it would take, but for some reason I couldn't add the maneuver. It seems there were some communication problem. I reboot a little bit until I was flying over the antennas, and then the connection came back. Now I'm not sure how I will get back after the moon if I can't pull off a maneuver there. That scared me. I scratched out a maneuver for the moon and started executing it. It wasn't super successful and I missed the launch window a bit, but I think it's okay. I will tweak it there. By the way, I managed to get close to the moon on the second try. I made an extra huge loop around Earth. Here we are. Here it is, the moon. It's very beautiful and soon it will be conquered. Bill was falling straight forward this huge piece of rock in space. One more little maneuver and yeah, we successfully entered the moon's orbit. I gathered some new data and Bill is just as crazy as Bob. He also went out into open space, stepping outside the cockpit. But what I feared happened. There is no fuel left to get back. I don't know what to do. How am I supposed to get Bill back? I tried to adjust our course just a little to enter Kerbin's orbit. Maybe I'll figure something out from there. And I managed to do it. Now I will be able to get closer to Kerbin and launch some kind of rescue mission from there. While experimenting, I discovered that if I'm at the farthest point from Earth and can just give a little throttle in the opposite direction, I will be able to crash into the Earth. This is my ticket to survival. Exactly what I need. Hope appeared. The hope that this would be a successful mission. I was so happy. All that's left is just to fly into the Earth at full speed and hope that everything will be okay and I won't burn up. And so the moment to maneuver. I hit the gas and it worked. That's it. We're falling to the Earth. Victory! It looks like Bill is also incredibly happy about that. He will make it back. Look at his eyes. He'd already thought he wouldn't see his friends again. And he thought the same fate as his brother awaited him. But we turned things around. At a speed of 300 meters per second, we started re-entering the atmosphere. I hope nothing breaks off. Yeah, I'm not that lucky. Then I hope at least the landing will be successful. Damn, everything just blew up. All my scientific data is gone, but the capsule itself breaking successfully and will survive. It was an incredible journey, not entirely successful, but definitely not a failure. Next mission, landing on the moon. I added a heat shield to the part that broke off during landing and added another stage to the rocket, the one I will be using for the return flight. I named it Shoot for the Moon MK13 and headed for launch. The launch went perfectly. I'd already gotten the hang of it by then, but things went wrong afterward. I used too much fuel and then I accidentally hit the spacebar, so I had to land and go finish building the rocket. I swapped out the engines for ones that are more fuel hungry but more powerful. In theory, this should give better result. The launch went well and the model separation went well too. I'm already going these basic things with more or less confidence. That's good. The second model ran out of fuel just a little bit before I reached orbit, and I actually thought I would have enough fuel to make it all the way to the moon. I mapped out a maneuver to reach the moon. I'm afraid the same situation might happen as last time. I got as close as possible, but I realized I don't have enough fuel to enter lunar orbit or land there, so I have to head back to upgrade the rocket. I collected the scientific data and I hope it will be enough for new components and headed back. But then this happens. I somehow set the speed too high and in a half of a second my ship has already crashed into the planet. Rest in peace, Bill. This is terrible to death in a single shift. The company is probably going to be bankrupt with results like that. I guess it's time for the company to replace its CEO. In any case, I changed my strategy and decided to build a huge rocket so I would definitely have enough fuel and maybe even some extra. My last rocket was 15 meters long and the new one is whole 21 meters and the cost doubled. I sent the rocket to the launch pad, and upon takeoff, it started behaving in a very interesting way, kind of like jellyfish. But I'm surprised at how well the rocket took off. It's a successful experiment, the modules separated just fine. I'm absolutely shocked. I managed to launch this whole thing into space. It's a huge breakthrough. I mapped out a flight path to the moon with the rocket this big. I think we will pull it off this time. We got close to the moon and even managed to enter orbit. But then I realized that I forgot to deploy the landing legs, so I had to collect as much data as I could from orbit and then head back to Kerbal. Bob or Bill would really love to see the dark side of the moon, but unfortunately, Jebediah did it. He carefully executed each maneuver one by one to safely return to Kerbal, slowing down along the way. I'm no longer using time acceleration like I used to. He used up the remaining fuel and detached the last module, ready to enter orbit. Everything is covered with heat shielding, so everything will be okay. And thanks to the reduced speed, re-entry into the atmosphere went as smoothly as possible. So many attempts, so much we have been through, and we finally did it. Who would thought that Jebediah would be the one to fly to the moon and back, but without Bob and Bill, he wouldn't have made it. I added landing legs and flew for the moon again, in the same rocket with the goal of landing. I successfully entered lunar orbit again. For me, it's as easy as washing my hands. Well, okay, I exaggerated a bit. Not quite that much. We have never been this close to the moon before. From here, it looks just unrealistically huge. I drop the extra modules and get ready to land. I've never done this before, so I hope everything goes well. The moment of landing is very stressful, but I believe our master pilot can handle it. After all, his life depends on it. And look, the landing was executed with surgical precision and was a success. But just as chubby Jebediah was getting out of the rocket, it suddenly tilted under his weight and fell. He planted his flag on his new land and got ready to fly back, but unfortunately the rocket flipped over with the cockpit facing down. For several hours, Jebediah trying to flip it back over, but he couldn't manage it. It looked like he stuck here on the moon, but suddenly luck smiled on Jebediah and the rocket flipped over. He barely managed to climb inside. Now, the key question. Will we be able to take off safely? After wobbling back and forth, the rocket lifted off just a little. This was my chance. I opened the throttle all the way and we successfully took off. I just couldn't believe my eyes. I managed to return to the moon's orbit, but there is a problem. Another problem. We are almost out of fuel. At a tremendous high above Kerbal, I ran out of fuel. Well, at least we're in Kerbal's orbit. At once so close and yet so far. I need help. I'm going to attempt a rescue mission. Like this if you enjoy it and leave a comment to let me know if I should make the next part.